All right, I'm working on a Bobcat 763, working on some wiring here. So first thing I wanted to take care of is I had a glow plug switch here, and I'd go to hit the button and I'd notice that my voltmeter wasn't moving at all. So wasn't getting something. Power wasn't going somewhere. So took these off. There's three 10mm bolts. You take your headlight down. It's just kind of has this little rubber grommet that's press fitted into the top. You just kind of pull that down, guide it out. Three 10mm bolts on the front there that screw into this plastic piece, which mine's kind of broken, but pulled it off and realized that this connector here, it wasn't plugged in, first of all. And secondly, there's supposed to be two pins, one like this and one right there, same thing. And it had corroded and broke off into the connector. So I went to Bobcat, just got a new one. It really wasn't that bad. So just popped a new one in, and then I took some of these little guys because I could not fish. Oh, where's it at? I could not fish that piece out right there. It would not come out. So I had a universal little wiring kit. Took some of these little guys, spliced them in. They work perfect. Now when you turn your key, you go over and look at your voltmeter. You press the glow plugs. They draw current. So now I know they're at least getting power. Who knows if they work? Who knows how long it's been like this, but hopefully they work now. I'm not in that cold of a climate, but I mean, it's still below freezing, and it has a kind of it struggles a little to start when it's cold, but I mean, without glow plugs, it'll still start, so that's fairly decent. Next thing I'm going to work on is my hour meter is not clicking over. It's at 1,903 hours, and that's where it was when I bought it. Who knows how many actual hours are on it, but this was plugged in. I just unplugged it, but I'm getting power there when you key it, turn it on. I'm getting keyed power, and then no ground over here. And there is a black stripe on this yellow wire, which if you follow it up the wiring harness, it seems to go all the way back up in there. There's two yellow wires that come down. They have a green stripe, and they go to this oil pressure sensor right here, which is what it should be running off of from the factory. It should be running off of that. So when your engine's running and you've got oil pressure, your hour meter will activate and you're getting true hours. You're not getting just keyed hours. But this is my machine, and I'm really the only one that runs it. So what I'm going to do is just take this and splice in one of these little terminal connectors. I'm just going to take one of these off and put into a ground. And this has keyed power, so when the key's on, hour meter will be clicking. I bought an hour meter as well at first because it was cheap enough. Ordered it off of Amazon thinking the hour meter was internally broke, but I've got a little power tester here, and when you go up, see now, right now it has ground where it should have positive, and then there's nothing. Well, hold on. Nothing where the ground should be. And then when I key it on, we are getting positive keyed power, and then over here we've got nothing. So if you take your tester here and you apply it to where there should be a ground and you give it ground, you'll actually hear it clicking. So see, Click. So the hour meter is working. It is working. It's just not getting correct. It's not getting the correct power to it. So that is what's causing, and I'm losing everything. That's what's causing it not to work. I could trace this back, but I honestly think it'll be, for me, since this is my machine, easier option to just cut this, tape it with electrical tape, and just splice in a new little piece and run it to a ground. And then that way I'll have at least keyed power, hour meter, hours. I mean, sure, if I leave the key on for some reason, I'll rack up hours, but I don't see myself doing that. And even if I do, I mean, I'll notice when there's an extra 100 hours on it when I last looked at it, and I've only ran it for a couple hours. Like, that'll be obvious. So it's my machine and it's older, so I don't really care that much. As long as I have it to where it's actually counting, that's what I care about. So yeah, I'll splice this together and we'll see what it looks like. All right, so got that little nut off there. In case you're wondering, that is a 3/8 size nut. It's really small. What I'm gonna do is cut this piece out. Actually, I might just tape that up now that I think of it. Take some wire, run it from this negative terminal and borrow negative power from that guy, borrowing from the voltmeter, and it has keyed power over here, so I don't have to worry about it staying on. So yeah, so let's see what that looks like. Also, so if anybody knows what this yellow with a black or brown striped wire, what that runs to, if you could comment that and let me know, because it runs, you can see it right there, and it runs up the wiring harness and goes back to the back of the cab and out right over there. I have no clue what that runs to. The oil pressure sensor, which is what you would think it runs to, is a yellow wire with a green stripe, and that connects to the sensor right in here. So maybe somewhere along the lines, that with the black or brown stripe meets into the one with the green stripe. I don't know why they wouldn't just connect it here and run it over, which I probably could do, but to me, just to run a wire from this to there is so much easier. But yeah, if anybody knows where that goes to, you could comment that. That'd be great. All right, I got my little connector all hooked up, and I got a bunch of wire here. I'll trim that up, of course, whenever I figure out how much I need. But I got this little tester here, this little test light. I actually found this from one of Andrew Camerata's videos. This thing's awesome. It was cheap too. It was like less than 20 bucks on Amazon, and it just tells you if you're getting a positive or negative ground, or a ground or positive current. And so you're getting positive there, and then you can also go and apply. If you press this button, you can apply positive or negative to something. But this is how I found that that there is a keyed power, because when it turn the key on, it turns red, so you've got power. And then over here you've got ground, and that's always ground. So that is useful, because as you can see here, that's ground without the key on. So yeah, we want to connect to that and bring that over here, so we've always got ground. And then that one is a keyed power, so we don't need to run power to it, because it does that itself. That's working like it should be. So, but yeah, this thing so far is really handy. You just run it's got a pretty long cable. I think it's like 20 feet. And you hook it up to the battery and just little clamps. And you can test things, and you can also test how much voltage you're getting. I probably won't use that. I'll probably just put a traditional like ohm meter on it. But this is this is mainly what I want to use it for. So yeah, if you're messing with stuff like this all the time, this is a great investment. You could probably get a more expensive one and it lasts longer. I mean, this thing kind of feels cheap, but you know, it works. So that's all I care about. Well, alrighty, so I've got that wire hooked up to the ground over there on the voltmeter or volt gauge. Ran it over here to the ground on that, and when I turn the key on, voila, hour meter works. And it is clicking over. It was at 1,903 and now it's at 1,904 as I sat here for a minute looking at it. But yeah, so now it works. So I don't need the new one, but I'll definitely keep it just in case this one ever decides to go bad. I watched a couple videos on, you know, Andrew Camerata. I watch a lot of his stuff, and he had a 742, I believe. It was like a gas model. He had 2 of these things, and he wasn't getting any power or ground. Or no, he had ground all the time and had, or power all the time, had no ground. So he ran this off of that, did keyed power, and then I think he also ran ground like I did there. So yeah, that's kind of where I got this idea. I have to give credit where it's due. Thankfully that was working, so I didn't have to do that. But yeah, that was pretty easy. So if anybody else is having the issues with these old machines, hour meters not seeming to work, that's probably why. And I saw somebody complaining that these things are noisy, like the clicking's loud, but I'm like, what does that matter? If the machine's running, you're not gonna hear it. Like, that must have been a joke, but like, unless you're in here doing your taxes with the key on, like, I don't see why that'd be a problem. So yeah. And now our glow plug switch is working. We're giving power to the glow plugs, I think, and hopefully they're working. And now we got an hour meter that's working. So cool, yeah. And now I'm just gonna piece this all back together. And it's probably a little difficult doing it by yourself, but it's even more difficult if you're holding the camera and trying to do it. Otherwise, I'd show you. I'm not fancied up. I don't have a GoPro or anything. So yeah, I'll piece this back together and let you see it. Oh, and there's a cover that goes in between this wire up top, and it's very difficult if your thing's broken for it to stay up there. So have fun with that. So a little tip, getting these back in, it's actually fairly easy for me. Knock on wood, that is fairly easy to do. If yours are worn out, I would imagine it's harder. You shouldn't need any tools. Like, you should be able to do that with your hands. So if you start putting tools on that, you might damage those. But what I've been doing is I'll take one end like this, kind of put it in, and just start working it back and forth, kind of turn it. Well, just turn it like this. Turn it, and it kind of, there's a lip here. All right, as I was saying, before my phone rudely died on me, I had to go charge it. But as I was saying, you shouldn't need tools. Like, you should be able to get that in by hand. I've done it a couple times, and it's fairly easy. So just kind of work it back and forth. Eventually you'll get it. Every time I've ever had to take those off, the plates on the back, I'll take the headlights out, because you just push them down and out, and you get right to that bolt over there. It's pretty easy to get to. But just make sure you tighten those guys back down. You don't want them moving all over the place. So tighten them down and then put this back in, and you are good to go. But yeah, so everything's working now. I fixed up the little electrical problems I had. But here's a machine in all her glory with her bald tires. But I bought it that way, so I'll probably get some more here soon. But yeah. Sold there in 98. Brand new. So somebody's taking care of her because she still runs pretty good. A little banged up, but she's in pretty decent shape. All right, well that one's in. Of course I say, oh, they're so easy to get in. And then that one was a pain. But I think the key to it is once you get this lip started from at least here to here, and then you turn it back and forth, it will kind of catch itself and then pull itself up. But that's not a terrible design, I don't think. No hardware, and it keeps itself in there. That's cool. For being as old as it is and still work, it's probably a good design. Nowadays, you'd probably have to take the whole cab apart to put a headlight in. So, somebody put this big cushiony seat in. I don't think that's factory at all, but I don't care because it's nice and comfy. So, yeah, that'll be the end of it. But, all right. Appreciate it.